Let's order the meeting of the Environmental Natural Resources Commission to order. So let's start with roll call. All right, who do we have here? Molly Miller.
Here.
Ted Redmond.
Here.
Okay, and Kayla Doser, of course. And then we've got Sean. And do we want to do introductions for Rebecca?
Sure, we can also save that for our member orientation. If you just want to.
There you go.
Here.
No, well, that's perfectly fine. We'll keep going. All right, so do we have any additions to add to the agenda from last month?
Madam Chair, no staff agenda items.
Nothing from the commission? If not, is there a motion to approve?
I'll move.
I'll second.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay.
Good job, Rebecca.
My first eye.
Yes.
All right, so now we can move on to new business, new member orientation.
Oh, Madam Chair, I think we skipped the minutes somewhere.
Can we skip the minutes?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, the approval of the minutes, yes. We have a motion to approve.
I'll move.
I'll second. Go ahead and jump in there, Rebecca, anytime. Oh, wait, you weren't there, though. That's okay. It's okay.
And all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Right. Motion is passed. All right. So we do have some new business on the agenda for the, you want to take that over? For new member orientation?
Oh, yes, thank you. I'm sorry. I'm asleep at the wheel here. Thank you, Madam Chair and members of the Commission. So tonight we will be going over a new member orientation. And of course, we do this whenever we get a new member, just to make sure we touch on all the policies and regulations that guide the Environmental Commission. And so tonight I would like to introduce to you our newest member, Rebecca Bryan. So Commissioner Bryan, she was appointed to the Environmental Natural Resources Commission on April 26th by the City Council. And Commissioner Bryan will be filling the vacancy left by Commissioner Okeson with a term ending September 30th of 2022. And so I'll just briefly touch on this and see if you have any questions, Commissioner Bryan. So under this orientation, I included in your packet the Environmental and Natural Resources Commission. So the commission actually started as a committee back in 2004, and then was the City Council created the Environmental and Natural Resources Commission ordinances, which created the commission in 2006. So it's been quite a while that this commission has been working on environmental issues for the city of Maplewood. And so the purpose and objective outlined in that ordinance is the ENR Commission was formed to establish environmental priorities and to propose changes necessary to existing environmental ordinances, which ensure that the city's environmental assets are protected, preserved, and enhanced. And I am the staff liaison for the Environmental Commission, Sean Finwall, and my title is Environmental Planner with the City of Maplewood. And I am staffed out of the Community Development Department. And I put some of our staff contacts on that orientation for you, our Community Development Director, Assistant Community Development Director, and our Administrative Assistant who helps distribute the packets and so forth. Allergy season, pardon me. So the packets do go out on the Thursday prior to the meeting, and we would email those to you as well as, I think we're having some technical difficulties, so I have to make sure I'm recording here. Sorry for the pause. There we go. Okay. At any rate, the packets go holidays, so we have to reschedule those meetings, but all the other ones on the third Monday of the month. And in 2010, the City Council did approve the ENR Commission's rules of procedure. So those procedures complement the Environmental and Natural Resources Commission ordinance, and they guide the commission in conducting the meetings. So Robert's Rules of Orders and so forth. Every year we do an annual report and we present that to the City Council. It helps us, of course, communicate to the council what we're working on and get their feedback and approval of that. We do have a council liaison who is Council Member Juneman, is our liaison to this commission. And then it just kind of goes into detail about how the Environmental Commission meeting is aired on Channel 16 live, and then also streaming live on the city website. So with that, looks like we're up again, if you're concerned. Apparently we were dropped for a minute there, but we're back on live. Okay, so the City of Maplewood would like to welcome you as a new member of the ENR Commission. We look forward to working with you on ensuring the city's environmental assets are protected, preserved, and enhanced. So with that, I open it up back to the chair, and hoping that perhaps we could get a little introduction from our newest commissioner. Thank you.
Thanks, Sean. Rebecca, nice to meet you. Do you want to introduce yourself a little bit? Tell us about yourself.
Yeah, so my name is Rebecca Bryan. You can also call me Becca. And I grew up in Maplewood, over in the Gladstone area along Wakefield Lake. My parents still live in that over in that area. And I moved away, but I've come back to Maplewood. I'm now over kind of over near Phelan and Keller on that end. And I've got a background in environmental education, environmental outreach. And so I am excited to be a part of this because that continues and builds on where my knowledge and where a lot of things that I come from, being able to just continue to work with public and educate and provide opportunities for environmental stewardship within the community, and so that's really my guiding or my motivation for being here and active within this commission. So I'm excited to be a part. Yeah.
We can do some introductions maybe. There's just a handful of us here. I'll go first. I'm Kayla Doser. I live in Maplewood, obviously up by the Costco. And I work at 3M, and I have lived in Maplewood for probably 5 years in August with my husband and my dog. And so I'm excited to be on the commission, of course, and working through some of the challenges we have here in Maplewood. My husband actually was volunteering this afternoon to deliver trees or put trees in people's cars. So he was doing that today over by City Hall. So
quite likely he may have given one to my parents that eventually will be coming to me because I did buy a tree.
He just walked in the door, so I'll have to ask him how it went. But so even he's getting involved too. So anyway, who wants to go next?
I'll go next. So I'm Ted Redmond, resident of Maplewood, of course. Lived in Maplewood about 10 years now. Also own a small consultancy in Maplewood called Pale Blue Dot. We are a climate and renewable energy consulting firm. My wife and I are partners in it. And I've been on the commission for I think just 1 year shy of an entire geological season. I'm not sure how long it's been, but it's been a number of years now. So it's good to meet you and good to have you here.
Hello, my name is Molly Miller, and I am a jack of many trades, I guess, a Jill of many trades. I don't know. I work in the Roseville area schools, but the schools that are in Maplewood mostly. I also live in Maplewood. I live by Edgerton, and I have worked at the elementary school and the middle school, And I actually am on the behavior team right now, and I am sort of known in the schools as using gardening and being outdoors as a tool for working with kids with everything from autism to behavior to ADHD, all that stuff. And we are in the midst of another big project right now, and we had a really good turnout this weekend. So, but I also have a background in education and in environmental science, and I don't know what else that I would do. So this is where I am, and I've been here a while, and I don't even know when I started, to be honest. 2013, maybe? I don't know, something like that. Anyway, welcome. I'm glad you're here.
All right. Anything else to bring up for new member orientation?
That is it. Thank you.
Okay, I think we can move on. We have some unfinished business, the Mississippi River Corridor Critical Area and Slope Ordinance. So, Sean, I'll hand that back over
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair, members of the commission.
to bring up for new business, and this is over to you.
Madam Chair, you were a little glitchy there, but I think I heard that you're turning it over to me.
Oh, yes, I'm sorry.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair and members of the commission. So we will continue our discussion on the Mississippi River Corridor Critical Area as well as our slope ordinance. And so I do have a presentation. It'll kind of give an update for our newest commissioner and then carry on where we left off on our slope ordinance. So I am going to share my screen here. Okay, and you can see that presentation? Okay, thank you. So the Maplewood Mississippi River Corridor Critical Area and Slopes ordinances, the ones that we currently have, were adopted in the 1970s. This was when the state originally adopted the rules for the MRCCA. January 4th of 2017, new MRCCA rules were adopted by the state, and now local governments are required to update the ordinances based on those new rules. And the deadline for Maplewood's review is October 1st of 2021. So this is a map of the city of Maplewood's MRCCA. You can see it's concentrated on that south west corner, south of Carver Avenue, and it encompasses much of the city's open space, Fish Creek, as well as Ramsey County open space. But there are 35 residential homes within that MRCCA area. And this map actually shows the natural resources that are located out there. The yellow highlights the bluff impact zones, and the green highlights natural vegetation areas. And then there's the stream flowing through there. Of course, that's Fish Creek. And our MRCCA district is not actually abutting against the Mississippi River, so we don't regulate anything, next to the river, but we do have some of the bluff land in this area. And so here is kind of a tour, if you haven't been out there, to the beautiful Fish Creek Neighborhood Preserve, which overlooks the river. You can see some beautiful vistas up there, and reestablishing the area to Oak Savanna. And when you walk further down into the gorge, that river really kind of cuts through, and there's all sorts of wildlife out there. So it's a beautiful place, and of course that's why we want to preserve it. So the timeline on our ordinance review, in October of 2020, the DNR did send us notification that we had 1 year to update the ordinance. From October to December of 2022, the Environmental Commission reviewed the MRCCA ordinance and adopted a draft ordinance. And I did include that draft in your packet. Then January to May, which is where we are now, we'll be looking at the draft slope ordinance. We started with a draft of the ordinance in, I believe it was January. And then we had a presentation by our assistant city engineer, John Jarosz, who came and presented concepts of slope, why we need to preserve slopes, best practices for preserving slopes. And I did include that presentation in your packet as well. And so now here we are today with another look at that draft slope ordinance. I really dug in and made sure that all the new information was critical to the Mississippi River Corridor Ordinance, keeping in mind that the slope ordinance will cover all areas of Maplewood, and the MRCCA will cover only that one portion of the city. So we want to make sure that we're being consistent, but keeping in mind that it could affect other areas. But generally speaking, most of Maplewood slopes are in South Maplewood in that MRCCA area. Then from June to July, we'll be doing some education and outreach. We will be required, and of course, this is important, to notify the neighbors in that area, as well as the entire city. So with a newsletter and then a direct mailing to those neighbors, outlining the requirement for the change and how it might affect their property. And what we have found with the MRCCA ordinance amendments proposed, or I should say adopted by the state, and then the DNR drafted the model ordinance. What we are seeing is the one thing that might affect some of those properties is the setback to the bluff line, which is now required to be 100 feet. And many of those homes are built closer than 100 feet to that bluff line. But they do have some allowances in that code and in the draft code that we have put together to, build to adjacent properties. So if there's a home that's out further towards the slope, this house could build out that far, and, non-conforming requirements as well. So it probably won't have a huge impact, but of course, it will be important to notify them. Then in July, we'll review that public feedback and forward the draft to the Department of Natural Resources. In August, we will have our Planning Commission review the ordinance. In September, the City Council will have the final review and approval, hopefully, and then we'll forward that on to the DNR in October. So looks like we're right on schedule. So now I'm going to kind of dig into the ordinance itself and stop and ask me questions as needed. The original ordinance, as you saw, was only like 2 pages, so it was very minimal. And this new one is like 4 or 5 pages, so you can see that we've added quite a bit. And I wanted to just briefly go over the sections for you, and then highlight some things that maybe we could review and discuss tonight. So the definitions, what was interesting in the original slope ordinance, it didn't even define a slope, which was odd. It did define a bluff line. So now we're adding the definition of steep slope from the MRCCA, and then mirroring that bluff definition from the MRCCA as well. And keeping in mind that other areas of the city likely don't have bluffs, but will include it in this ordinance. There could be a rare occasion, along some areas of the city where there might be a bluff, but it's not likely. So the bluff means a natural topographic feature having a slope that rises at least 25 feet, and the grade of the slope averages 18%. So it's a really tall slope, basically. It's got to be 25 feet high and really steep. And then a steep slope means a natural topographic feature with an average slope of 12 to 18%. So it doesn't have that defining characteristics of having to be a certain height. So that's, I think, kind of how it sums up what's the difference between a bluff and a steep slope. Then in the findings and purpose section, we're adding the findings for protecting steep slopes and the purpose for establishing slope preservation and protection regulations. And I kind of mirrored this language off of John Jarosh's slope presentation. He had some good information on there on why we should protect slopes. Structure placement. Placement of principal and accessory structures, decks, and facilities near bluff lines and steep slopes. So from a bluff line, keeping in mind we likely don't have any bluffs outside of the MRCCA, but we'll add it here. And again, that's 100 feet. And that's for principal structures with some exceptions. Again, I talked about building, in line with other homes. And then the requirement for accessory structures and decks is different. They don't have to maintain that 100 feet. But then from a steep slope, which is what our ordinance actually used to be, I guess, and is being maintained, 40 feet. And I kind of wanted to highlight that because this would mean that principal and accessory structures, decks, and facilities can't be built closer to a steep slope than 40 feet. And, we'll have our engineering department review all this again, but I just kind of want to point that out and get your feedback on how you feel about that. And if you think that will indeed protect the slopes. There are some areas of Maplewood that I can think of. I told the commission this previously. A commission years ago, we took a slope tour. It was quite exciting. We drove around and in a van, and we looked for slopes. And the one that comes to mind is Beaver Creek. There's a is that it? Oh boy. Well, at any rate, in our tour, we did see that some of the garages were built very close to the slope itself. While the house may have been 40 feet away, the garage was located really close. So that might be a concern. The next section, land alteration standards and stormwater management. This talks about prohibited and permitted land alterations on steep slopes. And our current ordinance really didn't get into this, so I think this will be beneficial. Perhaps, a homeowner goes in and just takes a little bobcat and starts digging away at their slope, and, that can cause some real damage. So there's some regulations in regard to that. Vegetation management talks about prohibited and permitted vegetation management on steep slopes. And then it also details a requirement for a vegetation restoration plan. So, if that homeowner did get a permit to do that bobcat work, and then we're reestablishing, we have some guidelines on what that restoration should look like. Erosion control and soils. This goes into the standards for land alteration on slopes. And that's about it for our slope ordinance. So I'm going to leave that and turn it back over to you for questions and comments. And again, tonight we're just looking for feedback. This draft ordinance will go to our engineering department for kind of a final review. And then, well, you saw the timeline previously. And then also I'd like some feedback, if you don't mind, on how we can do education and outreach to the content of the letter that we sent out. So I will stop sharing my screen if I can. There we go. All right. So thank you very much.
All right, so does anybody have any comments? I'm curious, what have we done in the past, Sean, for outreach and education? I think there's 30 houses or something like that. Is it a knock on everybody's door kind of a situation? Leave them a pamphlet? What we normally do for such a small amount of people? You're on mute.
Thank you. I would suggest just a direct mailing. The DNR actually, I think we reviewed this one time, but and I should have it in front of me, but I don't. But the DNR actually offers some sample mailing material. So I think I have to, I wonder if I can bring it to you next time if that meets our deadline. But yeah, I would suggest a direct mailing. And again, the DNR does offer some sample language for that. And then a newsletter article outlining what we're doing to the entire city. And then, of course, having the details on our website so people can access that.
Okay, that sounds great. Did anybody have a chance to review and have any comments or questions? No? Molly, you don't have anything to say?
What? How do you know already? No. I actually Sean did a really great idea or great job kind of tackling the questions I had from last time. It looks like she's awesome. She already included everything we had talked about that I was worried about. Unfortunately, I don't have it in front of me because my mailbox is locked. And but I do remember from last time I have notes from it, and those are the two things that she ran across both things that I had concerns about and took care of those things. So I'm good.
Yeah, I too. All of my questions or comments were addressed in one of the earlier iterations, so I feel pretty good about this personally.
All right, great. Well, is there anything else for the Mississippi River Corridor critical area conversation?
You guys are way too easy.
Well, because you did such a good job.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah, we kind of raked you over the coals last time.
I'm sorry. Do you need a motion, Sean?
No.
Okay.
Not this time.
Okay.
Darn, I was 2 for 2.
No, right?
It's a process, this ordinance writing. It can get quite tedious, and there's a lot of eyes that need to look at it, you know. So when it comes back to you, I think in our timeline, I don't have it in front of me, but it'll be in a couple months. And then we'll get your official approval, denial, kind of thing. Yeah, so well, thank you very much. And this is an important project, and I appreciate your work on that. So I'll turn it back to you. Thank you.
All right, thanks for that. Okay, go ahead.
Sorry. No, I did want to just say that I think that if you used one of the templates from DNR, that might be a good idea because then the wording and the phrasing is consistent with what they're sending out. I think that's a good job. So that's my 2 cents for that.
Did you say how early you were sending that out?
Well, June and July.
June and July. Okay.
The focus. And you always have to be careful on your wording because you know what it's like getting a letter like that from the city. They think they're being rezoned or, you know, it can be scary.
Mm-hmm.
So if I have time in my timeline, I will bring back that educational piece to the commission in June. And then we can mail that out in July. I think that will work good. Then we'll do like an article that'll show up in July, and then the mailing will go out right after our meeting. So yes, let's do that. So look for that in June.
Exciting. Good stuff. Okay, moving on. Next item on the agenda, do we have any visitor presentations? I don't think we do. If not, we'll keep going. Any commissioner presentations? I don't think so. Staff presentations. I see that we've got a couple here. Sean, do you want to start with the climate adaptation plan update?
Yes, so the climate adaptation plan that the city has been working on now for the last 2 years, and Commissioner Miller has been the representative from the ENR, and of course, Commissioner Palzer is our consultant lead on that. So a lot of great work, and it had come back before the Environmental Commission in January. So we brought that to the City Council on May 10th for a workshop to kind of dig into all the details. And it was really well received. They didn't have any concerns to speak of. They did maybe have some questions on how will all this be implemented, what will be the process to ensure that these goals match with our strategic goals and our comprehensive plan. So we'll address that more when we bring it to the council for final approval on May 24th. And then that will go on to the MPCA as part of the grant requirement on June 1st. Commissioner Redmond, did you want to say a few words?
No, other than just to recognize that the final plan is the result of an immense amount of work of a large planning committee. I'm now forgetting the exact numbers of folks that we had on that committee, but it was quite a few and met, I think it was 8 times over, over the span of more than a year. Through COVID, still got it all complete. So I think it's just good to recognize a lot of heavy lifting went into that from a large group of participants. So I think that's good.
Yes, and especially you. Thank you for your work.
Absolutely, yeah.
All right, well, I can move on if you're ready to the Waterfest. So, as you know, because of COVID, they're holding a self-directed event, is what they're calling it. So instead of one day at Phelan Lake, which they usually have, of course, Waterfest is a celebration of our clean water put on and hosted by the Ramsey Washington Metro Watershed District. And yearly, the Environmental Commission and previously our Nature Center, we would have booths out there to do some education and outreach. And we wanted to kind of continue that now. They had to cancel it last year, but this year they're looking at a new model just for this year, hopefully. But it will be from June 19th through the 27th. So that's 9 days. And the event will showcase numerous self-directed learning opportunities and activities. And they're also, if you're interested, looking for volunteers. And they say volunteers contributing 5+ hours will receive a Waterfest t-shirt. So you can go online and volunteer if you're interested. And those volunteers, what you would be doing, from what I understand, is because it's a self-directed event, people will come and go and meander about. And so the volunteers will bring all of the self-directed material, whatever that might be, out. And then at the end of the day, they bring it back in. And there's probably people kind of walking around and just checking on things. But there are volunteer opportunities out there. So we began discussing the Environmental Commission participating, and we did a little brainstorming, and then that was that. But I wanted to bring it up again to see if you're still interested. These things can be a lot of work, but I have an idea for us that I'm going to show you on my screen here. So I thought, what are we working on? The Environmental Commission? Well, we're working on the climate adaptation plan right now. So maybe we could do some education and outreach on that regard. And so I searched on the plan, and all of these strategies that outlined, or I should say included education, are right here before you. there's 10. And I thought maybe there's something that we could do around one of these. And it could be as simple as putting out the city of Maplewood, a poster board with the Environmental Commission and details on the plan and some handouts, Or last time I had heard a scavenger hunt. As an example, like here, continue to provide education around, oh, that's not it. There's one in here about invasive species. And I wonder if, we have some materials that we could put out to identify the common invasive species to look for, something like that. So I could either go over these or I'll just stop and listen for a moment.
Well, just a quick note on your comment with common invasive species. The DNR, if you just give them a call saying, I need handout materials for common invasives, plant or insect ones, they'll give you a whole box of stuff. So they've got tons and tons of material right there at the ready that you can just pick up.
Oh, excellent.
Yeah.
And then I also have an email into Carol Gurna. She's our new natural resource coordinator, and of course was on the Ramsey County Weed Management. I forget what they're called, but so she probably has those details as well, maybe some material. And Madam Chair, I see Commissioner Miller might have a comment.
Oh, hello. I was thinking, is there anybody doing like geocaching? Like, I was just thinking with the invasive species or something like that, where we can say, I don't know. I've never done it, but I know that my friends think that that's really fun. And that might be, because that's self-guided.
I'm curious if, because I've been part of the entry that I got involved with, at least with this commission, was through the Nature Center Task Force. And so I'm still kind of working with some of the things over there. And I'm wondering if the Nature Center at one point in time had GPS units that were available for checkout from the public, because that is something that's fairly common that could be used for something like geocaching. Because or a GPS scavenger hunt or something like that. So it'd be worth looking into or seeing if those can be accessed through a neighboring facility like Tamarack Nature Center.
I think there's even some free apps on phones that do it.
Yeah.
So that might be something that they wouldn't have to get anything, but we could do, anything like that.
No, you're absolutely right. There are a few free app-based platforms that are scavenger hunt or geo-tagging type things.
Okay, cool.
And the nice thing about that is that since it is a self-guided thing, you won't actually need to have a person there checking in and checking out equipment.
Yeah. So I'll just take a moment to kind of identify what these are. So the first one, talking about water quality and food storage risks resulting from power outages. The second one is effects of nutrient loads and contaminants in stormwater. Vegetation management of trees and how proper management can reduce storm-related power outages. Health impacts of air pollution, longer allergy season, and extreme heat events. Let's see. Renewable energy, conservation of energy, use of electric vehicles, public transit, pretty wide open there as far as promoting clean air and how we could do that. Risk to extreme precipitation events and flash flooding, water conservation education, rain gardens and low impact development to address stormwater runoff. Oh, overall, what are the climate risks? And, that could be something as simple as doing little cards with all the great graphics that were included on our climate adaptation plan. And then finally, here's the invasive species one. Weed pulls, tree plantings, invasive species identification. So those were the 4 I found, and I thought, hey, we could do something like that, and then we could let people know about our climate adaptation plan and give them a link to the website and so forth. Is that a good idea?
Yeah, I like that.
One of those? Okay, cool. And you've got great ideas so far, and I like how, I know that like the MPCA, they have handouts and things like that, and Ramsey County does too. We used to take out their like recycling relay game and things like that in their solid waste division. But I went on there today and I noticed those aren't available anymore. I wonder if it's because of COVID and didn't want to promote that type of thing.
Molly?
Actually, I just got off the phone with them because I requested some free water bottles for the gardening thing. The environmental thing that used to have all the stuff, those are closed, like not because of COVID, they closed before COVID. So I don't know what's going on, but you can still get stuff. You just have to call and leave a message and then they come and meet you in town. So that I do know that because I just got off the phone before this meeting. So.
You mean to get handouts and things like that, or their bags?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
I think many of them are still working from home,
Mm-hmm.
but we can get that type of material from them.
Yep. And the lady that I talked to said that she can even have it delivered like to the city instead of having to going to pick it up and all that stuff because nobody's at the office.
And the air quality education piece, I remember the MPCA, I took it out once. It's just as an example. They probably have other things, but it was Bernie the Burn Barrel. Have you ever seen him?
Hey.
You push a button and he talks about air quality. It was fun. I brought it to a green team meeting once. So I think there's a lot of things that we could just loan out, you know?
It's not a costume though, right?
No.
Okay, just checking.
Were you volunteering for that?
No.
Molly has volunteered to be a mascot in the past. What was it?
Colby.
Colby, the energy firefly.
Yeah. Yeah, that was.
We can bring him back.
It was hot and stinky.
9 days, you'll be in that thing.
Nope.
Okay. Well, I don't want to take up too much of our time here at the meeting, but it sure would be nice to get some direction and feedback. And if you were interested in, spending an hour with me sometime soon to kind of narrow down what we can do, and then I can help coordinate it all. Okay, I see 2 volunteers. Excellent. Well, I will follow up with an email with you 2. So thank you very much. And we can just move on from there. But I think we have a general idea. We're going to be promoting our climate adaptation and taking one of those educational pieces. So it's a good idea. All right, and then finally, let's see, where are we? Oh, yes. In-person Environmental Commission meetings. So here we are. We're headed back. So I wanted to let you know that on May 10th, the mayor announced that the remote meeting order will be rescinded and the council and all board and commission meetings will return to being in person on July 1st. So on July 19th will be our first in-person meeting back at City Hall in the council chambers. And I know that poses some challenges for some people with children. And I wanted to let you all I also wanted to let you know that apparently the city attorney was consulted on whether there was some opportunities for, people that couldn't attend in person to be, online and kind of have a hybrid approach, have some people in person, some people not. And it was determined that that's not feasible. This is not a direct quote, but it's not feasible per rules of order. So unfortunately, we don't have that flexibility to, if you're feeling sick or something, but you still want to come to the commission meeting, or if you don't have daycare and you still want to come to the commission meeting. So that is what I know. What's the date? July 19th. And that's over a year now that we haven't had, as of March of 2020, we stopped having in person. What a year. Well, thank you. And that's all I have for staff presentations.
All right, thank you. I'm gonna have to put a reminder on my calendar to go in person. Otherwise I'll be, 7 or 6:55 walking up to my computer. All right. Okay, that looks like the entirety of the agenda. Does anybody have anything else they wanted to bring up before we adjourn?
I can make a motion to.
Ooh. Yeah, I'll make a motion to adjourn. I got 3 in.
Thank you, Commissioner Redmond. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
All right, thank you. Okay, so motion passed. We are adjourning the meeting at 7:54 p.m. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
See you guys.
See you all later.
Bye. Bye.